We're ready to go. Okay, everybody. We have our work set out for us. We have a lot more requests than we have money. So we will have to make some harsh decisions. Some of the harsh decisions were made for us by town council. So there are a couple of projects that we can't consider according to her. And that would be, for those of you who are listening, the town of Stockbridge was requesting an historic education plan that is not allowed according to town council. Town of Stockbridge wanted a Campusa hydrological assessment. That is also not allowed.
No, he just said it was. He took that off the red list.
The digital documentation.
Oh, okay, the hydro assessment isn't, okay.
Yeah, the
sorry.
hydro assessment was not allowed, and the digitization was not allowed, according to what I read. Yes?
You didn't make it red, I'm just saying.
Where is the
The
digitization?
Kapusa box one.
The
is
digitization,
something you can consider, yes.
50,000.
Shelley, I put your name on this here, so,
okay.
and I'll give it to Patrick.
Wait a minute.
That was my interpretation of what I read from town council.
Okay, so there are three. Thank you, ma'am.
Did you tell me that?
The campus hydrological assessment, she said she couldn't do.
Right,
She also said,
digital, what you call it.
yeah,
Yeah, thanks.
and the last one was the historical education plan.
I get it, yeah. Sally? who
So those are my three, is that right? Is that what you get?
So I did speak to Jenny Merrill, and the Kapusa bond one for 50,000.
She's on that, I signed her in.
Can be considered, but there's a bunch of caveats like, conservation easements and other stuff that would have to happen.
Okay,
So while it is one that can happen, there are a number of strings. That's why if you saw, there was quite a bit on.
Right.
Apply that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, right.
okay, so we'll put a question mark next to that one. We have a question mark on my sheet, which is the straight Excel sheet on a few of them. This one right there. Okay. Linda, you want to go through them one by one?
Alphabetically?
Yeah, we can. On my sheet, I have them by category and then by alphabetical.
Okay, so you want the historical applications first?
Do you want to do that? I have affordable housing first because A comes before H.
Okay, let's go affordable.
Okay, so affordable housing, the Stockbridge Housing Authority is asking for, or Construct was asking for $70,000 for the driveway, for the additional units and the boiler. And you'll see on my sheet, it says yes, no. According to town council, the driveway was allowable. The other two items were not. The additional units and the boiler did not fit the requirements of the Community Preservation Act. So Construct wants to go ahead and go over the whole $70,000 for the driveway. They can do that. Stockbridge Housing Authority was asking for $33,529 to finish up the siding that they haven't done already. That was okay. The Housing Trust, I'm sorry. The Housing Trust Committee was asking for $125,000 according to town council. That was fine. Berkshire Scenic Railway was asking for 15,000. There were problems with that application because
Some housing.
it's, it's not housing. I'm just going to go through quick and talk about what town council said. Berkshire Scenic Railway had some issues with whether or not it's going to be permittable under the anti-aid premise. The Berkshire Scenic Railway is in itself a not-for-profit, but the use of this building going forward is not going to be by them. It's going to be rented. So we need to consider that. First Congregational Church, we have the issues that we have every year about the religious institution versus historic preservation. It's still my opinion that it qualifies under all of the tenets of the historic preservation, and what happens inside the building is not my concern. All of these are up for debate. This is just my preliminary run through. Stockbridge Fountain Committee was fine. Stockbridge Library was fine. Glendale Fire Department Station. Historic Commission had a few questions about how that was going to be done. It was not appropriately identified in the application, so that would need some clarification.
Sally, Michael has to leave in 5 minutes. Can we do the Glendale fire questions before he goes? Or any other questions on town projects that you guys have? Do you mind? Because I'm not in a position to answer them.
Linda? Go.
Yes,
Okay,
whatever you want to do.
all right, so the fire station
Okay.
is under historic preservation, and there were some questions by town council and by the historic committee whether
Well, first of all,
it was going to be done.
there was really no sense of what the priority was there. There are several projects mentioned. And it definitely qualifies as an historic building. But is anyone here representing that? Are you, Michael, or no? Do you have any sense of, where's the urgency?
The urgency is that the
These.
building itself, the siding and other stuff is beginning to deteriorate on the Glendale station. So we need to replace the siding, and then once we replace the siding, it'll need to be painted. There's windows that are cracked and broken on the site, so there's a numerous restoration that has to happen, and then once the building is restored, the town can make sure that it's maintained properly.
So the basis for the concern is a report? Is there anything that's been generated that does establish the need?
This comes from the personnel at the fire department and the chief and their evaluation of the building itself that they've done in that, considerable rot around the building. There's considerable deterioration, and we see this as a restorative project at this point.
The other thing, we had a problem with the map. It didn't total up to what it said it did. I'm not sure that that's a matter to be concerned about.
I can't hear you.
No, the math didn't add up.
Oh,
So we tried to figure that one out.
The town was going to put 50% of the project on the warrant, I believe, right?
Yes.
So, that also gives us a little bit of flexibility, because if there's paint or something that's considered maintenance,
Yeah.
that could be on the warrant side rather than on the CPC side.
And that was my question, was how much of this is deferred maintenance and how much of it is really, which is really restoration and historic preservation on this one.
so my question is similar one that I had, I think, for the Congregational Church is how much added expense is there for this restoration to be historically correct than otherwise just competitively bid?
the project this size we would have to go out and, go out for procurement. Because anything over $10,000 involves procurement. So we're either going out for 3 quotes or putting on an RFP as far as procurement laws.
So that's question, is it historically accurate the way it's bid?
We would put together and I would work with the historical preservation to make sure that we are putting it out properly to meet any requirements. I think the siding and other stuff, we need to restore it. You know, we wouldn't be looking at putting vinyl siding or anything else on that building. We'd be looking to restore the siding of the building, wood clapboard and the rest. So I know I've been up there with the chief and taking a look at the building, so.
So for instance, years ago, when there was an application for the town to work on the roof of this building, the way we rationalized the approval was because they were going to restore the historic nature of the roof rather than having an asphalt shingle roof.
Yeah.
And we funded the difference. So I think it'd be helpful if we could get a sense of what the difference is. I mean, what you say about keeping the wood siding is important.
Yeah.
If there are other details such as, you know, the historic character of the windows or the doors or something that could be provided, I think that would be helpful.
All right, I can go back to the fire chief and we can examine that or examine that during the RFP process with approval from the historical committee that we're doing the work to meet the criteria of being a restoration project. We aren't looking to put new stuff or, like I said, new siding or anything else. We're looking to restore it to its original condition and then come up with a proper maintenance program to continue forward.
How old is the roof?
It's pretty old. It's,
Okay, because it seems like you might want to start at the top and go down. I mean, the priorities here need to be really a little bit clearer for the scope of the work. So, you know, I don't recall ever seeing any kinds of assessments on this building having been done, other
I
than
only think it's been
hearsay.
I only think it's been done internally. So by the fire department and the chief there. As far as, I believe it's a slate roof, so we don't have leaks, so.
That's a
it is
plus.
Just replacing as you go along and using slate pieces as needed. And then, you know, those are some of the best roofs, but, yeah, the rest of it's just trying to get it in a condition, just restore it so we can maintain it going forward.
So,
I would think that restoring a slate roof would meet our criteria. I would think so, but
That's not weekends.
Yeah, it's not,
So-
a slate roof can last, yeah,
They last 100+ years
right.
if they're cared for, yeah.
Yeah,
So it's not, that's why I was asking, because I'm not even aware what the roof was until I asked that
so
question.
our policy has been over the years that when something like this comes before us, we ask for what it would cost to go to Home Depot
oh, all right,
and do the siding or the windows or the roof or whatever. And then we have traditionally suggested that we would make up the difference between what it would cost to do it, you know, Home Depot version
all right.
versus the historically correct, because oftentimes, like, the difference between an asphalt roof and a slate roof is huge. And obviously, under our what we're required to look at, it's historic preservation. So it's not to fix the building, it's to make it historically correct.
Right, so we fund the difference between siding at Home Depot and restoring clouds.
Yep,
Right.
So given what Patrick said about 50/50,
yeah,
you know, we can fund the difference to make it historically correct. We're allowed to do that.
Yeah.
And if you have other costs associated, it could go on the town warrant.
yep.
And I
So we
would,
are planning to put about.
It's not just a total figure you don't even have.
Yep,
Give us two costs.
we can do that,
We'll give you the difference.
yes.
Great.
So my question is, do you guys maybe want to have a meeting sometime in the next few weeks to evaluate what those historical requirements are? So to give the town some, I mean, this is our voting meeting, so I'm wondering if we do a.
Well, we can have another meeting.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
That's fine.
yeah.
And also, they need an estimate from somebody that knows what needs to be done.
Right,
because
but the
that
first thing
person
is, I
doing
think,
it.
getting feedback on what the historical, like what the historical commission is looking for.
I think I understand it.
I think
There's a difference, we'll have a count, we had people look at it as far as what the platform replacement, now all we need to do is, okay, if we were to use vinyl siding, what would it cost? And now there's
And
the
what
difference.
Linda will look at is if the people that you're hiring to pay the higher price
Yep,
is doing it correctly.
sure.
So get the right person.
All right.
And then it all works.
I will contact the chief tomorrow and we'll work on getting that back to the.
So even things like the barn style entry doors, they're in advanced state of decay. That's a good example of, we don't want to replace them with modern doors. We want to try to,
Right.
look at what that cost is versus what it is to keep it historically accurate.
That's a
Exactly.
very good example.
That's perfect. Okay, good.
Windows are a delicate area too, so.
Yes,
Yeah,
That's another
Definitely.
place.
yeah.
That's why we were saying the plan had not really been formulated yet. So this is a good start to pull that together.
So we're going to
All
table
right,
that
so
one.
we need additional information.
Well done, Linda.
so
What's
this
next?
might be a little bit out of school, but Arthur Dutiel has spent many years in the Glendale station, not recently, but in years past. Do you have any thoughts about the historic nature of the building?
No, other than we know it's a historic building and very significant to the village, that the church, obviously Reed Village. So I'd encourage any repairs or preservation necessary to maintain it, a credit to the town.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, so we're going to get more information on that.
Right.
Michael, what else do you need to look at before you leave?
The fountains? Michael, can you stay for the fountains?
This is totally.
You sure? 'Cause I don't think that one's controversial. I mean, I can't speak for everyone else.
What else is on your list?
I know the campus bond, Patrick can speak to. And I think other than that, most of the other projects aren't really town other than the cat and dog.
Right, and Kate's here for that.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
all right. So if there's nothing else you feel like you need to, you have to,
If you want to go to the cat and dog, I still have well.
okay, all right, well, let's do cat and dog then.
Okay, there were some questions about additional expenses because there's no quotes. There's a quote for 7,500 for the bottom tier, which is a whole new bowl, right? Is that what we're talking about?
So, Kate, do you want me to go or?
Yeah, you go. That's great.
So the bottom tier piece has been replaced with cement and the rest, so we got a quote to get the bottom granite piece. We have the two top pieces being done, which you guys approved in the past. The reason why we've been really struggling to get an engineer to do the basin evaluation. We contacted at least 5 or 6 different companies trying to get somebody to come up and take a look and price this out for us so that we would know exactly a price for this committee. And it wasn't until just 2 weeks ago that we finally secured an engineer to take a look at what needs to be done. Because the basin itself, it was realized that underneath the basin itself, all the bricks that originally created the frost walls and foundation have completely deteriorated. So now we got to rip the whole thing out. So at the time, we were trying to come up with a number that we could present. I will say that at this point, just in talking with the engineers, talking with ourselves, we threw out a number here that we think is safe so that we don't have to come back. I think this is similar to the Proctor roof where we ended up coming in under, where I think there's probably a good chance we're gonna come under, but we don't have to come back to the group for this. We know that we have to pour the base and we know we have some other things. But other than us trying to come up with a price, we weren't able to get the engineering. What we ran into is just, they're so busy with larger projects. A little project like that, we just couldn't. And one company that threw a price to engineer just the basin of $20,000, which we went, no, that's not even something we could consider. It's not that big of a project. So, basically engineering is typically 10% of a job. So that would be saying that's a 200,000 job. No, that's not. That's much smaller. So I wish that we could have had more solid numbers for the committee. But we do feel, based on the work, talking to the highway department, we think we can come in under that. But we think that by asking that, we won't be back before this committee to ask for any additional money. And we can get this project wrapped up, get the cat and dog fountain back operating, and get it to where it needs to be.
Okay,
Kate, is there anything else?
so do you want to say up to, Kate?
I'm sorry?
Do you want to make your request up to $7,500 for this?
40,000, I thought.
40,000.
Yeah,
What is the 7,500?
that was the one quote we were actually able to get for the one set piece that we knew.
Okay, so there's three parts here. The base that we're talking about with the
Yeah.
deteriorated brick
Yeah.
at 7,500.
Right.
Then the basin is the next layer up.
So if I may, the quote for 7,500 is for the bottom tier of the cat and dog fountain. Once the two top tiers were removed, we were better able to evaluate the bottom tier, and that has been compromised over the years with cement that was added to it. And after we had somebody look at it, and that somebody is Alan Williams from Chester Granite, he determined that it would not be salvageable. So he has I can share it with you if you want. But basically he has just put in a proposal to replicate, sort of reproduce the bottom tier.
Okay,
And
so then,
using granite, and it's a shape that needs to match the middle tier because it's shaped such that it fits with where the second tier sits on top of it.
okay, do we have three parts here or four? We've got the tier, which we're going to call the base. There's another one on top of that, and then the basin.
So
And
we
then the
have,
rim.
so basically we have the bottom tier of the sculpture itself. That's a 3-tiered sculpture. The top being the cat and dog, the middle tier having additional sculptural features like serpents and so on. And then the bottom tier, having just sort of being sized and shaped so that it meets the second tier. And then the other part is the basin itself. And that's what we are. And then we have to get an architectural drawing in order to replicate the basin itself. So the architectural drawing was something that we thought might be handled potentially under administrative funds.
Well, we already have an ask for that, so you'd be sharing with somebody on the historic preservation aspect. Okay, so we're still talking about three parts and then the statuary. And the rim, the marble rim is going to be replaced in kind, just put it back on. Okay, so that's another piece of the puzzle here.
Yep.
So the marble rim is actually in excellent shape, and it simply needs to be, I think I outlined that in the request, it simply needs to be removed, cleaned up, numbered, and stored securely while the other work is being done.
Okay.
Linda, do you have any concerns with this one?
Well, we haven't seen a report for a long time, so this is all good new news for us.
So I did submit a report to the committee as well as to the Historic Commission.
She did.
Was that recent?
Yeah.
Okay, well, maybe we could look at that. You don't have to do it right this minute. That would be helpful for the Historical Commission. Okay.
Sally, do you want to start having motions on these, or do you want to go through them all and then decide?
Not yet.
Okay.
we've got a lot of money to figure out.
Yeah, the dollars and cents here is going to be, get those
So,
calculators out.
no, not yet.
Quantitative analysis is not perfect, so.
All right.
Okay.
So,
Are there any other issues around the fountain that we need to know about? Particularly expenses that might crop up. We do have a little chart here and.
Mike, other than what I've outlined in the application, Mike, can you think of anything?
No, because right now we're down to the point that we're completely replacing the basin. So
Right.
before we kept looking at what could be remain, what needed to be replaced. Now the basin has to be completely replaced.
Okay.
anything else, Michael?
I believe
You
so.
good? Okay. All right, so let's go back to, let's start at the top for Berkshire Scenic Railway. There were questions about how this property was going to be used.
So if I may, I'm Tom Velasco.
Okay.
President of Berkshire Scenic Railway, and Kevin Shipman is also on the Zoom call. So any questions, I can definitely clear anything like that up.
The question is the use of the building. I mean, the Berkshire Scenic Railway has not-for-profit status.
Yep.
But it's our understanding that it's going to be rented out to a third party.
That's not correct.
Okay, well, that's what we need to know.
Yeah, the building's not gonna be leased. What we've done is we've partnered with an events manager.
Okay,
What we're trying to do is to hold events at the station that will make money for the museum and also money that we can set aside to continue maintenance and restoration projects at the station.
okay,
So this part here with the we call them the aprons, it's the concrete platform, not the train platform, but the concrete platforms on the east and west sides of the building and the front of the building here, the portico. That concrete walk is in very bad shape. So that's what this project is done. And this is really like a first phase. We want to do a lot of restoration work there at the station over, a several year time period. So the undersides of there's some other infrastructure work that we need to do that's not really associated with historic preservation, but there's electrical work, there's some plumbing that needs to be done in the building. But in terms of continuing on with historic preservation, we eventually want to restore the undersides of the soffits to more, we don't really know for sure, well, it was beadboard, and right now it's just like a plain plywood that's painted white. And there's more original light fixtures under all the canopies. And then the roof of the building is asphalt shingles, and of course, originally it was not. It was, we got, actually accumulated fairly recently a bunch of old pictures of the station. And best we can tell, the roof on the building was, of course, this was before the fire. The building was nearly destroyed in 1965 by a fire. So the roof on the building, the whole roof structure has been replaced, certainly. But the original roof, best we can tell, was like a standing seam copper. The copper, we actually have them on Lennox Station on the canopies. They're like metal shingles almost with a little shape stamped in them, and they're all seamed together. So best we can tell, that was the roof of the building. Over the portico and the canopies around the perimeter of the station, those roofs, I think, was just plain old copper seamed roof. And we'd love to be able to restore it to that.
Jack has the architectural drawings, you
Yep.
know that.
Yep.
So you have those.
Yeah.
And are they just the drawings or does it show material?
Unfortunately, that drawing is really just a plan view of the building.
Yeah.
That doesn't really doesn't go a lot of detail on the roof structure and all of that, unfortunately. So
I have a copy of that. Is there any way to find whatever the backup documentation was? Because you're right, I mean, that's.
it was built in 1893, so it's would probably be difficult to find any detail on that kind of
Here's a question. The station in Lennoxdale that you're using as the museum,
Lennox. Yeah.
is that by the same architect? Because this is the railroad's architect.
No, it was not the railroad architect. No, it was, I forget the gentleman's name, it was trying Stockbridge Station, but it was not the same architect.
Okay, so we have two different architects.
Yep.
Okay,
The two stations are very distinct, and they're not, because of the status of Lennox and Stockbridge at the time, with the great estates and all. These stations, for example, is basically out of the box. You hate a
Right.
railroad station.
Yeah, Linda, neither Stockbridge nor Lennox were railroad architects.
well, one of them is signed. One of these submissions has an architect's name on it.
Yeah. I have a
So
copy of that, and I'll see if I can find any.
there's quite a bit of information in the historical commission's files about this because everyone assumed it was by McKimmy and White,
No.
and it certainly is not. So that brought to mind some other characters who worked on it. So there's some information out there.
So yeah, just to clear up that, renting the station out, leasing it out, we've partnered with contracted with an events manager
Okay,
to manage events there for us. He makes a little bit of money, and then the main thrust is to make money for the museum so that we can continue to fund, make funds to maintain the station and continue with these
The
restorations.
concern of town council, just so you know, that was you need to demonstrate the public good of how it's currently being used. So it's not just a question of whether they're leasing it or not leasing it. It's a question, and I know there are things, for example, Tuesday Club. It's a question, is there public good? Is there some beneficial use for the public that you can point to? Because if it's just private functions, they didn't feel like that was fundable.
Right, so not all of them would be private functions. There probably would be some, but Tuesday would be one example. And then the museum wants to be able to have some exhibits in there, have it open to the public. And then eventually the restoration train service, scenic train service to stop. So in any of the other, some example of other events that we hold there, we had a little event there in a benefit for the museum last August, when a local singing group came, and we had a little event out on the lawn there, and it was open to the public as well.
So to refresh my memory, when did the Berkshire Scenic Railroad acquire the building?
We purchased the station in 2020.
And that was from the Fitzpatrick?
From the, I know.
that's the Fitzpatrick.
That's Fitzpatrick.
And how does the museum in Stockbridge dovetail with the museum in the Lennox station?
Well, so the vision was eventually the vision is to, again, have, the station open when we have train service back on the line, scenic train service back on the line as the southern terminus. And then at different times during the year, we could possibly host, some various exhibits there. Not necessarily every weekend like we do at Lennox. Being an all-volunteer organization, we're having challenges like everyone else with, staffing the volunteers. But that's was kind of the vision when we purchased the station, was to be able to hold events there, use it as the southern terminus again when train service resumes, and hold events there. Not events, but display exhibits and stuff like that.
So could you remind me, I know for many years there was no train station because it was privately owned and the previous owner did not want to have that. Then it was state owned, and for a while you did have service, and now you don't, but you're hoping to have it restored, a scenic service.
Yeah.
What's the holdup now?
So the holdup now, so right now the Berkshire line from Pittsfield to the state line is owned by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts.
Right.
And they are undergoing a multi-million-dollar rehabilitation of the line, primarily for freight service.
Right.
But when that project is finished, which is supposed to be, it was supposed to be finished this year, this past year, but they're still working on some track work. That's supposed to be completed, I believe, towards the end of 2022. So at that point, then the track will be in a condition where it can host, tourist passenger service again. It's up to par for freight service, and it'll be up to par for tourist passenger service, but not up to par for, this big intercity passenger service that everybody's been talking about for the last few years. So to get to that point would require many more hundreds of millions of dollars for infrastructure.
But we don't have to wait till that point before the scenic service can be restored. And you hope that could be within a year or so.
Possibly within the next year to 2 years.
Next year to 2 years.
Sally,
Yes.
if the proceeds are in part, I guess absent the event manager's salary or something, going to the museum and the restoration of the station,
That makes it
that
acceptable.
makes a big difference.
Yes.
Right, okay, because what she had written was profitable, and that's not.
Right.
Okay, all right, so we're okay. We're good.
Very good.
So just another question. Who will be the project management for this?
Would probably be myself.
Okay, so and then you'll be working with an engineer, an architect, somebody who has,
I'm an engineer by trade.
okay, if you're an engineer, that's good.
So we kind of, so the drawing in there I did of that.
Okay.
Because that's what I do for a living, but, so I basically estimated the cost for that. We're talking with a local contractor right now, to get, kind of numbers on, what it's going to cost to do the job. So, if everything goes as planned, we'll hopefully be able to do that. We'll start working on this project.
Okay, so, and you heard us talk about the other projects where we typically fund the difference between the historically correct restoration materials and what it would cost if you went to Home Depot or.
Well, a project like this with a lot of concrete and rebar and excavation work, I don't know how you compare it with, something from Home Depot, with all due respect.
Well, we understand that, but the point is, like, if you're replacing a roof and the roof, you say it's now an asphalt shingle. If you're talking about going back and restoring, that's not in this project for now, but in the future, when you're going back to restore that roof and you want to do the copper shingles or whatever you would call them, tiles, that would be where that kind of thing would come into play. That you would bid out how much it would cost just to plain old ordinary replace the asphalt shingles and what it would cost to restore it with the copper.
Yep.
And that is how you should be looking at everything that you're doing. I mean, there's some things, as you point out, that is, cement, rebar is rebar, and you got to do it that way. But if there is a historic component that you're asking us to pay for, then that's what we need to see.
And also with this project and with projects like that in the future, it wouldn't be, we are not asking for you to fund the whole project. We're
Right.
only asking for a portion of it. The museum has skin in the game, but the museum's going to pay a portion of it. We're going to fundraise for the balance.
So one item that I would pay attention to is the fact that the scenic railroad is run by volunteers. You don't, so that's a huge plus. There's a lot of citizens are volunteering their time. Are there any professionals at all on your staff or?
Professionals as in?
Administrators or conductors or?
Paid personnel.
No, paid personnel,
No, it doesn't have to be
We have,
paid.
actually, so we've contracted and
They're all
being that
professional.
we're all volunteers, Some of us have, railroad backgrounds.
Yeah, I meant being paid. Of course, you have professional
Yeah, right.
experience.
So, being all volunteers, it's a lot involved, it's a lot of dedication, a lot of time. And what we've realized over the last year is that we have to start being able to pay some people for, not as paid employees, but contract paid people for.
Of course, yeah.
So some of the bookkeeping work, we've had to hire out. We've just realized that, the board is pretty well strapped. So we've kind of hired contract basis for like an administrative assistant to the board to help with.
Sure.
She actually put together the whole application for this. So she's helping us with grant writing. And then of course, the gentleman at Stockbridge Station that's going to manage the events for us as well. So we'll be, paying him to organize and manage these events. Because it's just museum personnel just can't volunteer.
Got it.
We don't have that expertise and we don't have the time to do it. So that's, yeah.
So-
But a paid staff, no, we don't have a paid staff.
Final question from the Historical Commission was, is this the original concrete platform that we're looking at out there?
It's hard to tell.
Okay, I just wondered, because you must have evaluated that in
Yeah, a lot of
those
the old
drawings.
pictures that we have, it almost looks that way. Some of the pictures that we have, I think, go back to the 1930s, and the platform looks the same.
Yeah.
The concrete platform looks the same. Prior to the 1930s, there aren't too many photographs. There's like lithographs of the station
Right.
taken from the Route 7 bridge side, long before the bridge was there. It was a crossing grade, and of course, it was a path across the track prior to that. And of course, prior to 1893, you have pictures actually of the original wooden station. Well, they're not in the application or anything like that.
Okay.
It's not really relevant.
You might actually have that. Okay.
Yeah, it's best we can tell, it may be the original concrete, or may have been replaced once since 1893.
How do we feel about the electrical service?
Well, we can't fund that.
Yeah,
And we're not asking for funds.
Yeah, actually, it's not in this application. It's the other thing I just
Right.
gonna say.
Well, it's in there.
You mentioned it, but
Yeah,
that
it's
it's a
mentioned. I
need,
just
but
wanted to-
Right, it's mentioned as
Yeah.
one of the phases.
yeah, okay.
Like I said, there's other infrastructure work that we need to do here, and the electrical is one of them. But yeah, I understand that that's not.
Yeah, because we need to be very careful with all of these projects that we're separating out what's maintenance that maybe was deferred.
I serve on the CPC in Lennox, so.
Ah,
I
okay.
understand where you're coming from.
All right, great. Okay,
So the overall request is, from us, is only the 15,000, is that correct?
okay. All
You're
right,
welcome to fund more if you'd like.
yeah,
There you go.
yeah, except for we have X number of dollars and we
That's
have.
right. Now,
Just out of curiosity, are you getting CPC funding from Lennox as well?
we haven't made an application until the Lennox CPC in quite a while. And that's something that we'll be doing probably next year for the building. There's some work that needs to be done here.
Any other questions?
by the way, it is on the National Register. I don't know why Jenny put it in here as not being.
I think she doesn't know.
Okay, well, it's not the South Elm and blah, blah
Right,
district.
South Street,
Not the Main Street district.
Whatever, yeah. So I think that was a question for you, was whether it.
No, it certainly qualifies, and that's in our minutes, too.
Yes, I know.
I just have,
She had, it seemed to me that she hadn't read your minutes when she did
She
this.
had this.
She does have it.
Yeah, I know, but just the way
She
she laid it out
usually-
on all these, I just look at it,
Usually references your minutes when she
you know.
does this, but she didn't this time, so I'm not sure whether she. Carol?
how much money do we have? This 676 is what's being requested.
Yeah,
What have we got?
I forget.
Oh,
I had it somewhere.
we funded that.
676 is the total of all the requests, including ones the advice was we can't do.
Right. What I'm asking is, is how much money do we have to give
It was
away?
300 and something. It was 380.
But the undesignated balances are much, the undesignated.
I
balances are
understand,
much better.
but, we need to, my feeling is that we need to be careful about, one, running down our reserves, and two, because it's a complicated process, we don't actually know how much money we're going to get until the state figures it out.
But the state announced it though.
No, we find out like in September how much money we got. So it's confusing. We can hope for the best. And the estimate that I figured, we have $219,000 that are coming from the town. So if you take that money and say 50%, because it's been a little higher this time. So it's 300 and something that's coming in this year. And yes, we do have reserves. And yes, we can tap into those reserves. But we have to decide how much we want to do
It's
that.
just good to know what we're.
Well, we have this other sheet from Michael that,
Well, the other sheet will tell us
how much we have.
lots more.
We do have lots more. We have money. We have money.
And also, we talked about also calling back the toilet one.
Yes, we have the $65,000 for the portable, for the
The
compostable toilets at the boat ramp.
The boat ramp.
Oh, boat ramp.
Because,
Talk about that when we get to them.
yeah.
anyway,
Okay.
okay. Just lost my page. All right, so first congregational, actually, Arthur has asked if he could go early because he needs to leave. So does anybody mind if we go ahead and do that, the Gould Meadows?
Let's do it.
Okay.
Hey, Arthur, you're on.
And basically the proposal is in front of you.
Yep.
I have nothing additional to add. It's a question whether the committee has any questions on this proposal. Individualized.
So,
Arthur, take a look at that proposal and get rid of the word maintenance already.
never use the word maintenance, people, ever, ever, ever.
I just have a question. I mean, of course, I support this, but are we allowing applicants to edit their applications? I mean, we're going to change the submission date now? I mean, I don't mind if we do, but I think.
We've always done a little,
Okay.
clarification, shall we say.
Yes, you're just clarifying. You're clarifying the word maintenance out of your vocabulary.
I think the word manage is a good word.
Is that a good word? Listen to her.
Because it doesn't have, maintenance is a nasty word to the community preservation.
We also can't use restore or rehabilitate.
Right, whatever.
The only thing we can use it for is recreation,
Right,
because the open space with this property is not acquired with CPC funds.
right.
So therefore, it does not qualify for open space funds. So the only thing we can do is improve the trails and do recreation, so, wrap it all in that.
And the other part of Gould Meadows is that this has been ongoing,
Yeah,
putting it back to where it should be.
I understand.
So that it can be used for recreation instead of being just a big mess, which it was.
The question I have for you, the two of you really is, are we better off just asking for a lump of money that can be used over the next 3 or 4 years? When the requests come in every single year, it sort of feels like maintenance,
Well, because they're not doing the same thing every year.
I know they're not, but,
Yeah, so-
they don't have to spend all the money at once. It might be good to just,
Well, the attorney did a very good evaluation of that. She started to talk about
I know she does.
killing weeds and pulling out trees and things. And I think maybe she's not a gardener, but the idea is that you hit invasive species hard the first go round, and then really there might be a random weed or two to pick up after. So the removal of the nasty stuff is not really maintenance, I think.
No, it's not. It's
It's environmental remediation
Yeah,
is
exactly.
what it is. But,
and it's a capital improvement of this property, basically, because it has been allowed to go
Just
for
remember that
years.
none of the Gold Meadows projects can be open space projects.
Right.
Because because it wasn't acquired with open space land. So
Right.
it has to be wrapped in a recreational benefit.
Yes.
So, the invasive plants write-up is open space. That's how she justified it. Stump grinding, open space. We're going to have to really kind of make sure the focus is on, improving the recreation of the trails. And then the milk barn is okay, I believe.
The milk barn is fine.
it's not a problem. Now, she's giving us really good hints, so
Yeah.
it's a good, even if you don't necessarily agree with it, it's,
Did we ever, can we forward this to applicants, the town's evaluation?
I think that went to everybody.
It did,
No, it went to all the applicants as well?
I believe so.
Well, there, you can look at the top of that.
Did you guys get it? Did you guys get the report from town council?
Now, okay. I thought I had sent
I
it
think we
around.
should,
I think that's probably fine. I mean, it really is just for us, but
Okay.
I think it's, we look at it very closely because, as I say, there's always hints in here that
Yeah.
help a little bit.
All right. So,
So the historical commission is good on the milk barn, milking shed, I think. That's what it is.
did anyone have any other questions for Arthur on this project? No? Okay. All right, First Congregational Church.
Thank you.
Once again, we are up against religious versus community question. Always comes up every year. We have gone through this many times, and it has been our opinion that the main challenge to the use of CPA funds for what constitutes a religious institution was the town of Acton. I'm sure everybody's reasonably familiar with that. The town of Acton brought a lawsuit stating that it was not in keeping with separation of church and state. It has been our opinion over the years that this is an historic building. It has been designated as an historic building. We believe that it has significant value to the history of the town for all the reasons that are important, the founding of the town, the interaction between the Congregational Church and the native residents, and all of that. So we look at it as being an historic building, and until and unless we hear otherwise, we look at it that way. So having dispensed with that.
Yeah, I mean, we have made a comment several times that it's a community gathering place.
Yes.
As much as anything else, because it's a large enough space. You've got an area that's not designated for religious services, but it serves as a meeting place for a lot of people because there's nothing else like it in town. So, and the handicapped accessibility is greatly enhanced by having something a little more sturdy than what's out there now. So as long as it complies with the Secretary of Interior standards and the other issues that the Mieres firm constantly harps on, it should be all right. There was only one thing that shocked us. It's something about carving down the door thresholds. I know.
Actually, I don't think we're gonna have to do that. The architect looked at our doorways and there's actually two doorways. The outside door and then there's an inside door to keep the weather from getting inside to that room. We make it by a fraction of an inch. in terms of the distance that they have to be apart. So the only thing we'll have to do is put door openers
Awesome.
on the.
And those can be very discreet too, the door openers, getting better.
Most of these are tied to ADA compliant and building code issues. When we made our arrangement with the school to use that room, it got the attention of Ned and Vince, and they came for a walkthrough, and that's when we had to focus on the ramp, the steps, the railings, and some of those things. So that's where this all started a couple of years ago.
Did we ever figure out the age of the annex, that building section?
Yes, we know the age of every section of that.
Okay, so what is it? Because we were doing a little search the other day, it came up dry.
You're talking about
The brick,
the meeting room where the ramp would go in.
yeah,
The John Connect.
1894.
that's what I was thinking, okay. It looks 1894. Okay,
All right, anybody else have questions about that? Okay. All right, library, replace non-archival shadow box, which
Thank you.
everybody seemed to think was great. There weren't any issues that we had. Linda, did you have any?
the only waffle is the word historic, and so we decided to ignore that. Because probably this is made in just the way it has been for centuries, and it continues this tradition of this kind of artifact.
Okay,
It's really nice they gave it to us.
all right. Excellent. All right, did Gould Meadows. The Campusa hydrological assessment is not
That would
allowed.
require a conservation restriction, which I don't think, that involves multiple parties. I don't believe we're going to be able to put that together. So, figure out some other way. We did apply for a municipal vulnerabilities plan program grant for that.
Okay,
And we may just put it on the warrant itself. I mean, it's really important work, but it may not, it just doesn't fit for CPC.
I'm sorry, what are we talking about now?
The hydrological,
assessment.
because it might not qualify.
The $50,000, Tom, under campus.
Town council said that in order for that to be, this is a double-edged sword, the Campusa bog, because one, she's asking for a conservation restriction, which would be great, but I don't think that the Marians are going to do that, number one. Number two, we don't want to encourage public use on this project, on this property, because it's very fragile.
Well, to the first point, it doesn't really matter whether the Marians or anyone else supports it. The actual bog itself is never going to be developed. It's got some of the rarest species in the state.
No,
So
I
I don't believe they would
understand that.
ever get a permit.
I understand that.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it's not about development. It's just about, oftentimes when there's a project that comes before us, part of what they tell us is that it has to have public access.
Oh, no, I get it. Yeah.
And that is not something we want to encourage with Campusa in the first place. So funding it with CPC money carries with it that,
It would be open to the public and you don't.
and we don't want it to be open to the public. So there's that little issue too.
Okay.
Okay. Ice Glen interpretive signs, they were fine. Town council was fine with that, no problems. The digitization, document digitization, she said,
No.
So that's not going to be on our,
Wait, this is for,
the Campusa bog,
Campusa one.
document
That's the other one.
digitization. She said no on that.
The statute forbids it anyway.
Yeah.
Is that the one we could use administrative funds for, similar to what we did last year, or no? I mean, I don't really care. I'm just
We
curious.
already have an ask for the administrative funds.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think this is an in-house project that's very important.
Yeah.
There may be other opportunities for you to apply for something like that. All across the town, the records and archives that have to do with these projects that are generated year by year, it's sort of a mishmash if you can find the stuff.
This is the purpose of this one too was specifically to fund projects related to the senior tax work-off. And we do that through a tax overlay, as Gary from Assessors can explain. We don't do it through actual cash, so it's not even important that we fund it this way.
Okay,
So no is fine.
we don't need to think about
We
that.
don't even need to talk about it.
Not to worry.
I have a bunch of records from the Campusa.
We want them.
Yeah, I think they're
We want
down, I think they're downstairs.
Nice friendly senior who wants to pay less taxes to collate them next year.
I think they're in my office, actually. Laurel Hill Association revitalization of Upper Bowkers Woods. Again, town council said they want a conservation restriction from Laurel Hill, which I don't see happening. But I spoke to Michael at length about that today, and he said he believes that we're safe in the belief that Laurel Hill is a publicly minded and long-term partner with the town. And we don't need to necessarily worry about a
It's
conservation
also open
restriction.
to the public.
Yes.
Right, right.
Could I bring up just a couple of things about that? Looking at the plans for that, there's a stone wall in there, a historic stone wall. And you're going to have to breach it to create the parking area. Why are we building a parking lot for only 2 cars? Where do people park now?
They don't, because people don't use it.
I've used it by walking across the street from the Rockwell. I'm sure I'm not the only person in the United States, but I'm wondering, you're really opening up this delicate property. I mean, all up and down Route 7, you'll see where there are trails, into Connecticut, on the road. And to breach the wall to park 2 cars.
I don't know about a wall.
I think, I'm not sure I can see it well in the picture, but I've seen it walking there. Georgia Marsden brought it up too. So I know it's there.
I'm not aware of a wall that.
It may be covered in.
I don't remember a wall.
2 trees that have yellow laces on them.
Right.
Markers,
Right.
and that's the entrance, and that's where we would be putting the park.
We walked that last year, Conservation Commission. I don't recall a stone wall.
I'll have to go back and look a bit, but that was,
Further down where the brook, where the pond outflows, there's some retaining things there, but I don't know.
the other thing we discussed in our meeting is suddenly we're having all these applications about signage. And I think we need to coordinate some of this material for the wayfinding things and so on. And also there's a real need to acknowledge the underground community, the archaeological past of Stockbridge and the Native American component. So I just want to be sure that we have some kind of editorializing here to make sure that everything's going to march together and make sense. People call things by different words sometimes, and we need to be consistent in Stockbridge because we treat it like everyone knows everything all the time. They don't, so.
Well, this property sign would be the same as the design that we put on 5 already. 5 property signs like the one out here for Laurel Hill Park.
Yeah, I'm just bringing this up. That's been a concern of other people besides me, and I think it makes sense because signage is a necessary evil, but we don't want to overdo it. And in too many places, it gets too convoluted and too personal and, how do I say it, ephemeral. The concept changes in time.
But all over town now, you can see the way these signs will look. I mean, They've got one at Lower Bucker Woods, they've got one at Laurel Hill Park right out here. I mean, you know,
I'm going to go back and look at some other signs in town too, just to have, I think it needs to be consistent because there's also a color thing. Things historic are brown, things that are attractions are blue. That's mandated by state and national standards,
I
so.
mean, they've already invested a significant amount in this design, which had a public process to approve, that the select board approved initially. And I just feel like they're probably not gonna, you know, I hope that they kind of keep consistent throughout town. I mean, that's, I think, the point.
Be the same thing.
So Linda, I'm not clear what it is that you're
I think.
getting
I've
at.
seen a lot of applications for signage.
Yeah,
For example, I noticed the ones for the Ice Glen Trail idea, that thing has sharp corners on it. Human and animal height. I mean, kind of, it seems like a little scary. When you look at a lot of public signs, they have rounded corners for that reason, so that they don't catch you.
so I don't go
I'm
to
sure
the,
Matt would be more than happy to
Yeah,
modify it based on, you know.
I think we have to think about this, in a sensible way, so.
so I don't have to go to the ER with my 2-year-old.
Yeah, good luck with that. You'll be waiting about.
Get a BB gun. What was that movie?
Any other questions?
Okay, with it?
I'm still back on why there's a parking lot.
Oh,
It's because it's on a corner on the part of 183 that is like very narrow and it's not safe to
Yeah,
park on the road.
Alternative would be to park on Butler Road and Wall Road.
Yeah,
I mean, it could fall in the attractive nuisance category, because it is really dangerous right there. You just can't, it's not good sight lines, and so to create an unnatural structure to park cars on is kind of,
has anyone talked to the highway department about a curb cut on that?
No, I'm assuming you would have to go to the planning board.
Because I would think that that would be dicey
Yeah.
there.
That's why we didn't want to have just a pull in and back out. We should never back out onto that road.
Right,
This isn't a new trail though. This is a trail that when the Bowkers donated it to the Laurel Hill Association, those trails existed.
Right.
And it was donated with the purpose of making it accessible to the public.
Right.
And this is as much a restoration of what was there. It just is like kind of fallen into disrepair.
It's
And
almost like a grandfather curb cut too,
Yeah.
because I think it was an old logging road. that
Right.
went there.
it was a carriage trail.
Pardon?
Carriages went on it. So it would be, a horse goes one way and comes out the other kind of thing. It doesn't back up. Horses don't back up. So it's a much more informal kind of, and rustic feeling.
We were hoping that one of the options was to put in a circular, one way in, one way out, that would just be I don't know if that would take too much property and get into the 100-foot restriction from the wetland.
Pretty tight on the,
So
Yeah.
that's-
and it's a very, very significant vernal pool. It has endangered species salamanders that cross there and get squished on the road. I would like to see, personally, this is wearing my Conservation Commission person hat. I would like to see some sort of signage regarding salamander crossing to do with that, because
I'd also like to see a culvert there
well, that too.
that would protect them. I mean,
Yeah,
that's the thing with the town should do. It doesn't have anything to do with this body,
that
but
would probably,
yeah, because the salamanders have this habit of crossing in the foulest possible weather that you could consider. If it's just on the verge of rain and snow, and it's really pouring down, and it is miserable and awful, is when the salamanders want to cross. And
And you ask them why?
Little devils.
yeah, I did. They didn't have anything to
They
say
didn't?
about it, no.
Yeah.
So, some sort of provision for that to have them not be little squished bodies on the road.
We
would
should
be
make sure we talk to Allison Dixon, from
Yes.
HVA, because they're doing all the crossings, stream crossings and culvert requirements. They're assessing the entire town right now. And I'm not sure I brought that up to her, but we should bring it up.
We should.
Yeah.
One thing you might find it interesting that when the Glendale Chapel closed,
Mm-hmm.
the Glendale Chapel Society auxiliary, they took the funds that they had and gave Laurel Hill a bench at Lower Dockers Woods, right on the
On your side,
outside,
mm-hmm.
and a bench at Cinderella Pond, which, if you can find it, it's a challenge. And the gazebo at Roder Park.
All right.
So it's, I thought that was interesting.
Where's Edgar's bench? You told me before, upper or lower?
Well, there's one in each.
Yeah, Edgar's bench is in lower,
Yes,
and we're discussing upper.
yes.
I know where I park when I go in upper Brompton, but I'm not gonna say it.
It's a beautiful spot. It is an absolutely
Yeah,
gorgeous
it's
spot.
lovely.
Okay.
Oh, there's one thing that said invasive Burberry. Does that mean barberry?
Barberry,
I always forget how it's.
Unless it's a tweed jacket.
It's a barb,
yeah, barberry,
yeah, because it's,
which is bad.
but you can buy it now for landscape purposes. It doesn't have berries. It's infertile, but you still get the color and the shape and all that stuff, so.
Barberry's bad.
It's terrible.
It
is terrible.
harbors ticks, among other things, and
Yeah.
anybody who thinks that ticks are swell can have all kinds of barberry everywhere. Because the mice hide in it, and it's great, it's like Brer Rabbit.
Yeah.
Anyway,
You pointed it out, Sally.
Yeah. yeah, it would be good to get rid of that. All right, Kayak River Launch.
Oh dear. Which one is that one?
That one is, where did?
Third from the bottom.
Yeah, this one is to, there was a attempt to create a river launch that was unsuccessful based on, whatever was placed down there, and they want, the Parks and Rec wants to,
Which we funded.
We funded that.
Yes,
yeah, it didn't work. So we're looking to take that one and move it to the bowl, and instead create one similar to how they have in Egremont and Williamstown, I think, which is basically a big stone thing that you can just walk out onto, and that actually works. And so this is like the engineering and the actual stone. They actually had a pretty good plan for doing it, and it's based on what is in further south in North County.
it's one big mushy mess down there.
Yeah, that's right. That's why I want to put stones in the water that basically will create a thing you can step onto and launch.
Okay, but that's gonna require a conservation.
It will, yes.
It's gonna be a big deal.
If you're filling in a resource area.
I'm, yeah.
Just saying,
I understand.
It is a resource.
the river, yeah, river.
Hi, Pat.
So it's land underwater, among other things.
Yeah, no, I understand.
So that could be, I mean, I don't think it's undoable. I just think it's a big deal.
Is it any worse than the thing that was already permitted?
Well, it was floating.
It wasn't a,
Floating
yeah,
makes a difference.
yeah.
Not as good for ducks.
No, probably not. But for instance, at one point, and I'm not sure whether they figured out that that wasn't a really good idea. But at one time, you used to be able to have a dock, and as long as it was floating, you didn't have to have a chapter 91.
Those are the days.
So,
Only yesterday.
so this river launch, I think it's a great idea. I was very much in favor of the original one as that the HVA did. because that's an absolutely incredible resource for the town, for people to be able to go in kayaks and canoes and things. You can go a good deal east, and then you can go all the way down through the golf course and down as far as, you don't want to go over the dam, but you can go a long way. And it's really amazing because you feel as though you're in a complete wilderness. You don't see the houses throughout a lot of the way. There are, however, at one point, all these little white balls that you keep in the river.
Golf balls?
Oh, golf ball.
And there are people who've made, some good pocket change going
Right,
on.
collect them.
It's an excellent business.
And retrieving all the,
Yep.
retrieving all the golf balls. And from what I understand, Jack Fitzpatrick there were several of his golf bags that went in the water there too. But anyway,
Because
All those golf balls permitted for that land underwater issue?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think there's something, you gotta go there.
So we're okay with having a kayak river launch.
It's gonna have some
Be permitted.
serious permitting. Yeah,
It's gonna be what?
Permitting issues.
You know anybody in the
Okay.
conservation?
All right, that's what I'm asking.
yeah.
Okay.
All right, so kayak canoe launch at the town beach, and that's a reuse of the one
That's
that
a yes, but not just that. That's the one where Parks and Rec wants to restore the waterfront, get rid of the phragmites, and then put a path down through whatever the new plantings are, the native plantings are.
Right.
And place the launch at the end of that path.
So what are the implications of having people put their canoes and things in there unwashed
yeah.
from the beach as opposed to where we can wash at the town?
Well, no, it's for the people who store their kayaks there.
Okay, but if their friends come and bring a kayak that came from New Jersey,
Yeah, we don't.
We have
don't
the zero
encourage
muscle.
people-
Yeah, we don't have.
We don't encourage
have to
people
have
to
a
bring them.
slip.
We basically have we rent out storage
Right.
Okay.
and we're planning on adding more. And it's for the folks who live on the eastern side of the lake to store, their boats there and then be able to Parks and Rec wants people to be able to get them in the water without interacting with the swimmers because it's often really little kids. And then right now they have to, because the phragmites are so tall, they have to drag the boats all the way back to where the sand is and then put them in the water there. And they want to keep the launch of the boat separate from the swimming.
no, I get it. I'm just saying.
I think that's a very valid
We
point
have
that Linda's
different
bringing up.
aspects here, putting the boats in the water. And you can say that there are people that live here, but you absolutely know when their kids come home from college or somebody's visiting, they bring their own.
Well, it's just that there's no difference between what we have now, which is basically some kayaks there and maybe some people breaking the rules, and what we would have envisioned under this scenario. People can still illegally drop a boat in from the beach if there's not a lifeguard on duty or if it's after hours or whatever. I mean, this doesn't really change that reality, I don't, is the point of it.
Yeah, I'd like to put it on the record though, because, we're going to spend $65,000 for a composting toilet at the place where we really want people to put their boats in. So
Yeah.
God only knows.
So I think that we need to have signage.
We do have signage there. This says, do not bring your boats and launch them here, only launch them from the boat ramp.
Right, but when we have a canoe launch there, we need to be sure that those boats are clean.
It's not really a new launch, I mean, there's already boats stored there.
I know.
This is just, instead of dragging it over to the sand where the kids are, it's being able to just go directly to the water where the boats are stored.
But it's gonna make it more popular.
Okay, I mean, that's reasonable, so we put up a sign.
Yeah,
The condition.
signage would really
Still gotta have it permitted by you guys,
Right, exactly.
you know?
How did we miss the Norman Rockwell Museum?
We haven't got there
Can we
yet.
go back to that?
Because it's way up.
Because it's admin. Okay, never mind.
The use of the administrative funds is the only way to go for them.
Right.
So I think that there was no question, but that they were going to use that to leverage other asks that they have out there.
Yeah, so that's good. I saw Lori there and I thought, we didn't talk about that, so that's okay. All right, Ice Glen invasive insect treatment.
Can I ask a quick question before you proceed? Are you going to be making decisions tonight? Do we need to be on, or is there going to be another meeting? How's this going to work?
I think we will be making decisions tonight, but I don't know that this is going to be the final meeting.
So we would have to preliminary.
Thank you.
Sorry.
You know, so we might be making preliminary decisions on that.
Yeah. Okay, Ice Glen invasive insect treatment.
This project went way up in cost because of the decision not to use any basil bark spray, to only use the injection method to minimize the unwanted
Side effect.
having pesticides on the, in the non-target areas, which is basically inside the tree. So project is doubling costs, and I think they would like to try to fund as many trees with injection as they can. We could have treated the entire forest if we wanted to just soak the bark with spray, but that would have spread that pesticide all throughout that area, and there was not any appetite on agriculture and forestry to do that.
Have you, did you consider the bugs? There are some biological treatments. Did you-
Yeah, no, we looked at the question of releasing insects. Unfortunately, there's 3 different insects that are attacking what we have now, and there's nothing yet that eats them all. And they've gotten to the point where they're kind of on their last branch, leg, whatever you want. And we lost, I don't know, at least 15 or 20 of the hemlocks just since we did the evaluation last year.
Lost what?
I can speak up if you'd like. This is Shelby Marshall. I'm on the commission.
I didn't hear you answer
We
my.
lost 15 or 20, I think something like 10 to 20 of the hemlocks.
Actually, close. We may have lost as many as 30 by now. We are looking at biological controls for the long term, but we are in basically a crisis management right now, and we need to do something to stop the attack right now, so that we can buy ourselves time to then proceed with biological controls for long term. But right now, we have so many trees that are at serious risk that if we do biological controls, they're more expensive, they take longer. There's more to it. And so we really honestly can't afford the time. Nobody's crazy about using chemicals, but injecting is the best way to go, because even though it's expensive, the insecticide only goes literally inside the tree. It doesn't go anywhere else.
You have to eat the leaves to get it.
Okay.
I went on a site visit with Matt Boudreau, and I was impressed by how the homework he had done, and the fact that as an organic farmer, he's very conscious of using herbicides when not necessary. And in his opinion, that although I didn't get the sense that it's quite the desperate emergency that some are saying it is, but I do feel that there is, in this case, some justification for.
Tom, in all fairness, we had the head of the entire Commonwealth's DCR forestry health program for the entire state is the professional who did the evaluation, who said most of the trees will be dead within 2 to 3 years if we don't treat them. And they've seen there is precedent for this too. Just look at Purgatory Gulch, which had the same similar chasm with hemlocks going up the sides, and it's in one USDA, whatever that's called with gardens, it's one south of us in terms of like the USDA zones, and every one of those trees died. The entire hemlock forest died. So it's not like this is something that we're dreaming up here. That was,
I didn't say you're dreaming it up, but
Well,
there've been a lot of infestations in the state, in New England. Some have been worse than others, some have survived longer than others. I've done a little bit of research on this, but as I said, I think in this case, there is some justification.
okay, good.
and I do want to reassure you, Tom, that it's a hard thing to say reassuring, but to just kind of confirm, out of the 350 hemlocks in Ice Glen that were checked, 64%, 226 trees are in poor condition, and that was a year ago. And then another 36% were in fair condition. There was only one tree considered in good condition. So again, that's a year ago. We've already lost some. This is really progressing quite quickly.
Okay.
Thank you, Shelby.
Oh, thank you.
Housing Trust Committee, Jay, you want to talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think basically what we're in the process of.
Sorry.
Before we go on, I think that since there are two applications, one for signage and the other for
Right.
herbicide treatment, I think maybe we could sort of talk about them together.
Okay.
Yeah, they had, town council had no issues with the signage area.
But my thinking is that you're presenting this herbicide issue as such a critical, time-sensitive crisis. And my sense is that perhaps the signage is not as time-sensitive, and maybe if we have to make some tough choices, would you prefer that we focus our funds on the herbicide?
I think that's very reasonable.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. We understand that you don't have enough money to go around, and the treatment is absolutely priority one.
Okay, that's my question.
Yeah, thanks for asking.
Okay. Jay?
Okay, not to belabor this, but we are in the process of establishing a housing trust. There is an interim committee that's been set up. The committee is finalizing a declaration statement, which would be basically the purpose and the membership and the authority of a housing trust. The trust, it was very interesting to read recently that Lennox has taken several properties near the old high school in the downtown area and offered these at auction at subsidized rates, 1/2 of the going rate, $250,000 a house. And this gives people an opportunity who normally would not have an opportunity to buy in to a home. And what we're trying to do is to get some type of level playing field for a segment of the population, so we can incentivize some younger people to come in here. And the statement is made that, yes, there could be down payment assistance on property. We're in the process now of looking at like 17 or 20 some odd properties that are in a tax, a lien status. These, we can't discuss them because they're not finalized, but these could become accessible under a trust. So the bottom line is that in probably in the next few weeks, the Housing Trust Committee is going to present the declaration to the Select Board. And once approved, it's my understanding that the Permanent Trust Committee can be established without authorization of the town meeting by the Select Board. So, I mean, basically, we're trying to give people an opportunity to live here. and people that basically could be supportive of the town in some of our volunteer efforts, i.e. fire, police. We've got at least 3 or 4 of our police officers that live in Lee. I'm not going to cite any names, but they can't afford to live here.
I don't think any of our policemen live in Stockbridge.
That's right.
No, that's correct.
And I look around the fire department, I'm not sure I want that many people who are on the current fire department carrying me out of a second story window.
Well, the fire chief lives in Lee also, so.
That was,
But I think I think this is very important. And, I was terribly impressed by the situation with Lennox offering those houses.
Those are on the affordable rolls. So to be offered at that price by the town, they are on the town's affordable roll for 30 years. So it's not like someone can buy it and flip it for market price. I mean, those are houses that people own.
1/2 market price.
Yeah, what? Yeah.
they've already flipped them. We own property right next to it and they're done. They're just waiting for someone to go into them. There's only one that hasn't been worked on yet. There's a 6 that were sold together as a package. So it's,
But if you use CPC funds, if you use housing authority funds in Lennox,
they didn't use CPC funds as far as.
but if they used housing authority funds, I don't know how they did it. I mean, I know the law is that they must be on the affordable housing rolls.
Correct.
If I may, CPC money was used for some of that because the housing trust in Lennox is funded through CPC.
Right.
So every year in Lennox, we set aside a certain amount of money. It's because it's divided up, you got affordable housing, historic preservation, open space and rec, and historic preservation. So whatever comes into Lennox every year, we divvy it up by thirds.
Yeah, we do that too.
So the housing trust gets a certain amount of money every year. They come to CPC for additional projects, for additional funding, but that's, so that those properties were purchased with
Correct.
CPC funds.
So,
is our model comparable to the Lennox?
It would be a similar type of model.
And any money we put in absolutely is limited by the larger laws around, public housing and what we can legally fund.
Right.
We can't, for example, fund workforce housing or luxury housing. We can basically fund affordable projects that are either rental in nature or home ownership in nature. But there's very specific limits on the kinds of projects you can fund with town money around housing.
wait a minute.
This all has to be thoroughly documented, Tom. There's no arbitrary or capricious situation. It's got to go right according to the law, because otherwise you've got serious issues.
But
So,
what was Linda saying? Were you saying they were bought and flipped?
Yes.
It might have been resold, but they weren't resold at a profit.
No, they're not all occupied. So the 2 that are being offered, they don't have anyone living in them because they've been doing these one by one.
Yeah.
So I think it's going to work. I mean, it seems very optimistic.
Most people, when you say flip, they
Yeah.
think of it as like you bought it low and you got in big
They've
money.
been gutted. They have all new utilities. The interiors are all fitted out.
But they can't be flipped.
Those weren't individuals flipping them, is that?
They went from the individual to the group.
Right, but not at a profit.
Yeah.
The term flipped implies. that-
Right, the term flip means that they bought it to make a profit.
No, they're deed restricted.
Yeah.
Affordable.
Right, okay, good, okay.
At first, there was not this concept, but then they came up with it, which I think is brilliant. Because otherwise they would have gone
Yeah.
into the open market
She
and
owned all that.
Yeah, she did great. I mean,
And I think she kept some of them, I
Right,
think,
right.
but then there were 3, I think, that she offered to the town.
She was the developer and really took a haircut to make sure some of those units were affordable. Really actually did a wonderful job.
I think it's, as I'm saying, it works. So I think it's a good model. but they weren't free.
Well, I think, I've been saying this since we first started out. This is possibly the most important thing that we can do for our town, is to make it
I agree.
possible for people of modest means to buy a house.
At least give some people a chance, okay? You're not gonna be able to get to everybody, but we need to get some people an opportunity.
So Jay, if somebody wants to donate to this trust, give you cash or,
Right,
is that
Property.
or property? Yeah.
yeah,
That's good, right?
Trust can accept donations.
yeah.
So
I think
that's,
that would be attractive to a lot of people that are frustrated and they want to do something, for this cause. And this would be a really good way to
so
benefit the community.
once this gets finalized and the declaration gets through the
Select board.
select board and all that stuff, there should really be a big press release that describes what the project is, but also that, as Linda said, maybe if you want to donate property or you want to, does this have not-for-profit status? I'm just curious.
Yeah,
Well, it's a affordable housing trust. It's a nonprofit trust fund.
So
It's
would
not
you-
owned by the town. It's not owned by anyone.
yes,
So would you get a tax break if you
Yeah, absolutely.
donated? Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if it's a 501c3.
Yeah.
It's some kind of number associated with, nonprofit.
Yeah, there are different categories of
Find
nonprofit.
out what the benefits and so forth are of that, because 501c3 gives you the right to solicit.
Well, I believe the housing trust, I'm not sure how it would work here, but in Lennox, I believe it's actually under the umbrella of town government.
Yeah,
It's a board.
No,
The housing trust, before the housing trust in Lennox has.
The selectmen,
It would be separate and distinct from town government. There is a board, that's correct.
so Mary Ann, for example, is like the head of the housing trust, and she's the head of the select board, but they appointed her to the housing trust because it's a separate
Where
corporation.
that nets, yeah.
Right, yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right, so I think we have looked at everything. Have we looked at everything?
Did you do the housing?
The Housing
construct.
Authority, yeah, construct, we talked about construct at the beginning,
The
say,
siding board replacement for Eaton Court?
yeah, I think we're, we've been doing that for years, so we're pretty good with that unless anybody has any comment. The construct there were some questions by town council about what could be funded from that. It included the additional units and the boiler cannot. But we could conceivably fund the full request. I'm not saying that we haven't voted yet, but if we could conceivably fund the full request of $70,000 toward the driveway.
And then we might want to look at that 25,000 that they requested for the expansion engineering plan. We might want to, once the trust is through, to look at it, funding
To
that.
talk about expanding Pine Woods.
Yeah.
Incidentally, just as an aside, the driveway, we've talked about this in prior years of Pine Woods. They couldn't do it last year because of the rain. Okay,
Right.
it couldn't be paved, and it's an absolute mess.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. Nobody should have to drive over that. It's not a good
At
situation.
least they got the tree situation under control because that was also bad.
Okay, so I think we've looked at everything. Do we want to begin to make some decisions?
Have anyone in the audience that wants to speak? Yes.
I have one question. I'm wondering, Patrick, if you could ask Teresa or Mike to post the input from town council on requests so that those of us who applied can see that.
Sure.
I can email it out to everybody.
Well, I think we can post
I
it.
think we did,
Good
I think we
idea.
did
Yeah,
that.
that too.
Voted to
Post it to the website.
I didn't receive anything. I'd be interested to see that.
Okay. All right, so there are a couple no-brainers here.
Which way, plus or minus?
Kate, I
No.
just sent it to you.
The library request for $2,712. Do we want to just go ahead with that since it's a one?
Yep.
Make a motion. Approve the library request.
I'll second.
Any discussion,
No.
comments?
So I'm sorry,
Sorry,
refresh my,
the shadow box for the peace pipe.
Right here.
okay.
Any discussion? All in favor? Yes?
Aye.
All right,
I'd also like to make a motion that we approve the Norman Rockwell administrative funds request.
okay.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Which one is that? I'm sorry.
The rock.
$49.99.
The historic structure
got it.
At
report
the very top, Jake.
out of the
Got it, I got it. Thank you.
admin. Okay. It pays to ask not for much.
I think we can go forward with Gould Meadows. I'll make a motion on that one.
All right, Friends of Gold Meadows. Second, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
And along those lines, I think we should do the kayak and the beach.
No.
No? Not yet.
All right.
What if we just used our sheet? Just go down.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing.
So that way,
Right,
we have an increment that we can,
Right.
yes, we're done.
Good, yes. Okay.
all right, so
Construct,
Yep.
next,
$70,000.
That's the driveway.
Yeah.
driveway.
I'd make a motion.
Okay. Tell me when it's discussion. I have a question.
Okay.
It's now,
Oh, okay, good. All right, so it says 70,000, it says driveway, additional units, boiler. Now, we can't do the additional units and the boiler according to the attorney. Does that adjust the 70,000?
no, because
Okay.
their total cost is $245,000.
Oh, that's a lot of bananas. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you for that answer.
So I'm sure that they can happily use the 70,000.
Yeah, for sure.
Remember, we also have,
Driveway.
we also have housing reserve undesignated as 166,000. So I know we have a lot of housing things here between Stockbridge Housing Authority and this construct and the 125 for housing, but that isn't all coming out of necessarily this year's CPA
Right.
allotment. We have a lot of reserves in housing that we can apply toward these goals.
But we also want to make sure that that's undesignated.
This isn't undesignated. Once it's designated as housing, we can't ever claw back.
I understand that.
Yeah, I know you do, but I'm just saying.
You do have the motion for the driveway.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
have a motion before us.
So
I made the motion.
Yeah.
need a second.
Second.
But my question is, and maybe you've partially answered it, Patrick, but given that what you said, Sally, about needing to trim, and given that I know this is only part of the much larger amount of 245, but should we be waiting to see other requests? I mean, 70,000.
Well, we have we
Big.
have the requests under affordable housing, which is the construct, the housing authority and the housing authorities trust. So those are the three,
That's 228,
those are the three
right?
that we have in that category.
Yeah, it's still quite a lot. Just wonder if we want to look at the entire budget, not just
Right.
the housing.
No, I
Part.
get that. But the other thing is that we should keep in mind, the construct project was built with CPA funding.
Yeah,
And so this is kind of our baby.
Yep.
Right.
We have like a.
And I feel sort of, because it is affordable housing and because we are so desperate for affordable housing in town.
But then again, Jay has made a compelling argument for the 125 for, so it all mounts up.
But the 125 can come out of the undesignated housing.
Right, yeah.
The undesignated housing reserve, which is at 166,000.
Yeah, but
What do we, I mean, the whole purpose of having the trust is we don't need to have the money sit in CPC anymore. We can actually put it into the trust and let the trust, apply it as
To work.
Yeah, put it to work. So I hear what you're saying, but I would suggest we take the 125 out of undesignated, housing undesignated. And then, the only one we would be taking out of this year's, pie would be the construct one and the Stockbridge Housing Authority one, which is less than a third of what we have available this year.
well, I think there's a compelling argument to take part of the request out of this year's pie, to be honest.
So if I read this correctly, the affordable housing reserve undesignated is $67,000.
What page are we on here?
This,
Which one has the undesignated?
this one.
Okay, that's this one. All right, undez.
67,000.
Oh, yeah,
I don't have one.
but over here it says one.
It's on the other side of the one that I,
Oh, thank
Oh, I
you.
see what you're saying. HP is historic preservation. Yeah, you're right.
Yes.
so it's not as much money.
No, I thought that the HP was housing. You're right. That's historic preservation. Okay.
Because we have funded a fair amount for the affordable housing. So, let's see, if we have 70,000.
It's 128, so.
How much is the Stockbridge Housing Authority? We basically got,
228, I'm sorry.
yeah, 228,000. So if we take 67 out of it, we would be looking at about 150 out of this year's bucket, if we
Which
fund it
is a
all.
lot.
It is a lot.
Well, it's half, and I mean, I'm getting a little confused because we have a motion on the floor.
Yeah, we may have to withdraw that.
Well, I don't know, so we want to talk about all three at once, because.
Well, it's all coming out of that one pot.
Yeah, but Jay,
So theoretically, if we do what we normally do, which is to do a third, and a third, which is, flexible, we have $100,000 that would typically go to, or a little over $100,000 that would typically go to affordable housing.
right, I understand, and that would do both Construct and Stockbridge Housing Authority, and then is what Patrick said correct, that we could take that 67,000 and give that to the Housing Trust. Jay, the reason, I want to say something directly to you. I am totally supportive of the town housing trust. You, your committee, I'm completely supportive. But I'm wondering, since you're just at the beginning, and fill me in, I'm asking a question. Since you're just at the beginning of this, you haven't even been before the select board with your whatever. Could we give you some now and more next year? I mean.
The basic problem is if there are no funds to establish this trust that will make a meaningful difference, we might as well just scrap the effort. You wait till next year.
So you
we
feel
can't,
like-
we can't operate without any reserves, any funds.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was saying, what if we gave you the 67,000 in the first year? Is that at all a positive thing? And then what Linda said with making a splash, here we are, and do you want to donate?
You know, I think Patrick would have a comment here, but if you, for example, wanted to do 100,000 for the trust in the first year, plus the driveway and the siding for Heaton Court, how about that?
Yeah,
So that, and
you want
we're
me to read-
counting the 67,000.
and,
So
yeah.
that's.
Using the reserves
200,000.
too, right.
All right, so what do you think, Gary?
Want me to
Where did Patrick go?
Do you want me to restate the motion?
Why don't we wait?
The motion on the table is 70,000 for construct, so we have a lot of work to
Right.
do, motion-wise.
Right. Do you want to take a vote on that?
I would
I do.
rather not vote the 70 up or down right now until we really, I think we really want to make a considered decision. I think you make a very strong argument for the trust. I'm not comfortable dipping into the reserve. I think we ought to make a
That's not reserved, that's already designated for housing.
designated, but I think that it's more compelling to be investing from our current than what's set aside. What do you think, Gary?
I was just trying to figure out the fund here.
The motion to approve the 70,000 has been whisked away by some general discussion about the entire global world. So where we are.
Well, I mean, we
now-
can't, yeah, okay. Well, wait a minute.
We'll have to, we have to either vote or.
Yeah, we have to either
withdraw
vote or
one or the
withdraw the
other.
motion. And people are looking for where to cut.
Yeah.
Jay made the suggestion to take the 125 and make it 100.
Right. That still doesn't get it done, though.
Tom wants to reduce the 70, which I don't get at all, and I don't know who else.
Well, you can't,
suggested.
if we've got 167, and that's notwithstanding Tom's objection to using the reserve, you're still going to have to cut back on the other two a little bit to make the numbers work.
Yeah,
No. Look, you've got, first of all,
it's 217.
there's
160.
general undesignated, then there are undesignated amounts in the three buckets.
Right.
So you've got a total of undesignated funds of $647,000. All right. There's frankly enough money to fund just about everything on the list. And I'm not saying we shouldn't because it's something we can't legally do. But, then that doesn't even include the money from the state, which is at the bottom, which is.
Right, in other words, if
an
we
unknown.
did that, we could fund everything on this list, and then when the state gives us the money, have the 219 plus the state in the reserves within a matter
We don't
of.
have to even touch the state money, which will go into the general undesignated to do this stuff. I mean,
Okay, where are you seeing the 600,000 in reserve?
at the top of the spreadsheet, you got 295.
Oh, okay, never mind, I'm looking at
Right,
it.
and also remember that we also can, if we're not going to do the composting toilet, puts another 63 in that, which brings it up to 7.
We're not going to compost the toilet.
We're not going to
So anyway,
compost the
here
toilet.
to the
Turned
right
out that that
here,
was a lot more
Other side.
involved than we originally thought.
So even without touching the state money, we have $700,000 we can
That's
apply,
what
and
we
I
have.
personally don't
So I
support
got it.
any cuts.
Yes. That's the actual.
We have $295,000 in undesignated reserve
Right.
and $67,000 in affordable housing undesignated. The other ones we can't touch for this.
Not for this, but
Not for
we have-
this.
we also have the money, yeah.
That's not what he's saying.
So basically, we have $350,000 that we could conceivably use for affordable housing
Right.
if we decided we wanted to do that, in addition to whatever we bring in this year.
You bet. And Tom's concern about not having a reserve would absolutely not come
My
into existence
concern is,
because that the money we get this year could immediately go in the reserve.
my basic concern is that at the beginning of this meeting, Sally understandably said before we approve the different, the different specific requests, let's have a holistic picture of, and that's basically what I'm asking for, is a holistic picture here.
So we would, if we did, let's say, 50,000 to construct, and then the 33 for the housing authority, and 100,000 for the housing trust.
183.
That's $183,000. We have roughly, let's just make it simple, roughly $110,000 from this year's. And we may have more, we don't know. The state is looking pretty healthy, but we may have more than that, but we don't know that we're going to. So if we have $110,000 from this year, and we have 228,000 if we went for the whole thing. Let's see, how does that work out? I'm confusing myself. It's 183,000. So we could take the balance, which is $73,000 out of the reserve.
Yeah, look at it. If we reduce construct to 50, which I think we can do because we're not doing the boiler.
Right.
And we're not doing the plan to expand, then I would like to leave the housing at 125 because that 25,000 to expand Pine Woods, we can grant out of the housing trust when the select board signs the paperwork. So I would rather we don't double dip, like both reduce construct and reduce the housing trust, because then if we don't want to lose a year on the plan to at least evaluate whether we can do anything in Pine Woods, we're going to need to fund that in an alternative mechanism such as the housing trust fund. So, doing 50 plus 33 plus 125 would be 208,000. Okay, out of 67 of that can come from the reserve, and so that would leave 131,000 that would be coming out of some kind of current allocations. I don't think that's
Okay, your proposal that we're theoretically voting on now is to approve the 70. Patrick is now.
We need to get that off the table one way or
Just
another.
ask Jay
To vote up and down, or Jay needs to read.
Are you okay with making it 50, looking at the bigger picture?
I'm just concerned because basically we had approved money for the driveway last year and they couldn't get the job done.
Right.
And, we're cutting back on.
what it takes to finish it.
It's a difficult, I'm not particularly comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Okay,
Okay?
Not at all.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so I withdraw my, thank you for explaining, and I will.
so that would be 228,000 if we fund all three,
All right,
228,500.
minus 67, which would be 161. No, sorry, 151. Well, 228 minus 67 is 161 we'd have to fund.
How much? 161, 151?
161.
161.
And we're taking the balance if we have 110.
Yeah,
And but remember, we still got 167 in historic reserve and 104 in open space reserve.
But we
And I
can't-
like the idea of
we
funding
can't-
open space.
We can't touch that.
No, you can't. you
Not for
can't.
this,
Not
but I'm
for
saying is to get
this,
to
but
other,
for-
talking about having a global discussion,
Okay.
right.
I mean, I think that leaving money in the open space reserve makes the most sense because we can, with open space, don't forget, you can bond it. So if somebody came up with a piece of property that was $1 million and we wanted to put 100,000 a year for 10 years, legally, we can bond future CPA revenues against the purchase of a parcel, like $1 million, $1.5 million parcel. We can do that. So continuing to leave undesignated money in open space is the one that makes the most sense if we ever want to acquire anything.
But didn't you just send out a memo how we can bond for affordable
That's
housing?
exactly what I'm talking about now. So, because we can bond open space, having undesignated money in open space is the most important thing in case we ever see a property that's worth getting.
But we can bond,
That doesn't apply to historic, because with historic, it's like the projects come and we fund them, and then, there's nothing you can bond with historic.
but you can bond.
Let me try to rework the theory here. Are we on a preliminary basis supportive of the construct proposal, of the Heaton Court wooden siding, and of the Housing Trust Committee? Basically, we are.
Yes.
Okay. Now, basically, if we are, what are we prepared to fund for these three things? We need the 70,000 for the driveway, okay?
Under that.
And the wooden siding,
It's 30.
33, it's 33, whatever.
Yeah, it's rounded off to 34.
34,000. So what are we saying?
120, and then 125 for your piece, it would be 229.
Of 161 to be supported by reserves, right?
Yes.
That would be the motion I would make.
Wait,
Withdraw your other motion.
I withdraw the motion on construct alone.
Okay, wait.
no, because you made the motion for the 70,000 for construct.
Right, so just,
So we can just vote on that.
Oh, okay.
Motion for 70,000.
I called the
construct.
question.
What's that?
It means she has to call a vote and enough with the talking.
Right, so,
It was
so,
motion second.
is there any additional discussion?
No, I called the question. I gotta ask.
So,
If that passes.
all in favor?
Gotta call vote.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay,
Did you oppose? Oh, okay.
so Housing Authority,
All right, so this one is
I make a motion that we fund 33,529 for
Second.
the Stockbridge Housing Authority for wooden siding.
any discussion?
Second.
Carol already seconded. Who missed the vote?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Housing Trust Committee, $125,000.
I make a motion that we fund 125,000 for the financial support for moderate income housing.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
all right, so we just spent.
Thank you, we got through that.
$228,000.
1/3 of the way there.
It's a tough one.
Keep going. This
Hey,
is good.
Jay, can I ask Jay a question?
Yes.
Jay, is the Housing Trust, is there any mechanism there to help out current residents who are struggling to maintain their homes?
No, because that would be repair of existing facilities that would not be covered under a trust. We asked that question.
Also, generally, people would have to be at 80% AMI. There's a lot of restrictions on that's area of median income. I mean, this is not a repair. We didn't get a grant for housing repair. And there are more grants that we can go after for that, but that's not this.
I have to leave it. So-
Yeah,
I'm sorry, did you-
we had
did you-
to, Kate, we had to withdraw the housing repair component of our proposal because it could not be covered by CPC. Council advised us to do that.
It was last week.
But as part of the Housing Trust, is there a mechanism to assist existing residents?
Well, basically, you're saying to fund existing residents from a housing trust that's funded by community preservation money?
No, it's independently of the, I guess, so the only funds that you're getting are from CPA, I guess that would answer the.
Any house that is funded through the Housing Trust Fund has to go on the 30-year register of affordable housing for the town. So for example, if I were willing to put my house on the affordable housing register and never sell it for profit, then I could conceivably then qualify for some funds to assist it. But, you know, in this kind of market, it is really unlikely that anybody is going to want to have their house be put on the affordable rolls. Because obviously when there's appreciation, you're giving up all that appreciation.
That is correct.
So Jay, there's just, as part of your new committee, the Housing Trust Committee, do I have the name right?
Affordable Housing Trust Fund.
Housing Trust Fund, there is no way to assist current residents who are struggling.
The Housing Trust Fund cannot support current residents.
Okay, thank you.
All right, so let me figure this out. So let's say we just voted $228,900, 110 out of this year's, 67 out of reserves,
All right. So we're basically.
and 52 out of where?
We took 67 out of reserve. This is for the 3 housing proposals we just passed? We're taking 161 out of the current allocation, and we're taking 67 out of the reserves.
You had it at 110, change it to 161,
Where's that coming from?
current
The
allocation.
3, then you add them up, it's,
Hypothetically.
I know what that is. I just need to know where this money is coming from.
Okay,
So if we
67.
have $229,000 and we say roughly $110,000 is coming from this year.
No.
Wait.
No,
This year, then we have the $67,000 coming from the Affordable Housing Reserve. We still have a balance of $52,000.
110 is your mistake.
The
110 should be
110 is
161.
the 110 should be 161, and then you're good.
Where's 161?
The 161 is coming out
Coming
of
out of the current.
undesignated.
No.
Current.
Now you're doing it. Coming out of this year's allocation, 67 out of reserved.
That's 110 is roughly a third.
I understand, but that's what we just voted. I understand if you don't like it.
No,
but that's
I'm
what
not
we
saying I don't like it. I just say I need to know where it's coming from.
Designate where it's.
So
Right.
so 110 is this year roughly.
Why do you keep going to
67,
110? It's
Why do you keep
161.
saying that?
because if we have $319,000 coming in this year, if you divide that by 3, I'm
We know
saying it's
that.
$110,000. It's not really, but it's close. Okay,
That's
so
not
then
right.
we have the $67,000 that's coming from the Affordable Housing Reserve, which leaves us $52,000 unaccounted for. Now, are
Oh,
we taking
well,
that out of undesignated
Yes.
funds?
Yes,
Okay, that's what I need to know.
okay.
That's
Why are you saying yes?
on,
That's not what his motion said.
he just made a
It
motion
is,
for
it's the
the,
same thing.
he just made a motion for each
I didn't make a
fund.
motion as to where the money was coming.
All right.
I need to know where the money's coming from. So that's under the regular undesignated reserves. The $67,000 is coming from the Affordable Housing Reserve, and the $52,000 is coming from the undesignated. It's not exact amounts, but close.
Okay,
So,
it's good.
and so now, just so we're clear though, at the bottom of the spreadsheet, you know, if we got the black one, Michael has projected 328 from the state.
Right.
Now, we're not saying that we're counting that yet, but so at the top, he's projected, 319 or whatever is, from
All right, 328.
right,
Yeah.
from the town. So we still have,
No, but the 328 is the town plus the state.
That's right.
Yeah.
You're right.
219 is the town.
Right, 219 is the town, and then.
And then
you
another
estimate 50.
50%
Right.
from the state. So we could get 100% and, we could have another $100,000 hanging around.
right, but just remember, we also have in just regular old undesignated 295.
Right, so that's where the
That's where the additional 50 is
Take it from
coming.
that.
okay.
So if I could just time out for a second. We're going to have a follow-up meeting, right?
I think we're going to have to, yeah.
And how much more do we need to cover tonight, and what do we want to?
I think we should, there's a couple of low hanging fruit. One, I make a motion, we approve the cat and dog fountain. Let's get that project done. It has been, these guys have been working so hard for so long. Kate, thank you.
Thank you, Patrick. Can I just add something? To the point that was raised earlier, I think by Tom asking the Scenic Railway about costs for staff. We are volunteers and just, I have been handling all the administrative end of this committee from day one. That includes setting them up, the Zoom, setting that up, the agenda and the minutes. So we have been looking to save money wherever we can. We have done fundraising and we would really love to be finished with this project.
I make a motion, we do cat and dog fountain.
All right, so while you're still here,
Yeah, yes, ma'am.
do we have any further discussion on cat and dog? Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And Tom, dinner is ready.
Yeah, put it on the warmer, Kate.
Can I do one?
For the record, I abstained on that last.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kate.
Okay, are we adjourning to next meeting or what are we doing? You want to
Well, we
pick a
have to
time?
set the next
What would the
meeting.
next meeting be? What will it include? Let's think of the agenda options here.
I think we need to review what we've allocated so far, figure out how much of the undesignated we're going to go into and determine which ones we're going to vote on to complete the process.
Okay, so we have all of the historic preservation projects,
Except cat and dog.
except for the cat and dog. And then we have the open space and recreation.
Right.
Except Gould Meadows, we already did that one.
We did Gould Meadows. I'd be in favor of going ahead with the kayak launch and the
Me too.
town beach.
I'll make a motion for
The
that.
what? Say it what?
Kayak launch in the town beach.
Oh, you don't want me here for that?
Why, you don't want to do that?
No.
How? Why?
Why, yeah.
That's why we have discussion. If you don't, then we should know. Why?
Well, because I believed what Linda said,
Which is,
that there's room for more water vehicles, whatever, kayaks or canoes, and
A lifeguard can't police that.
yeah, and we
So-
don't half the time have a lifeguard.
So I think, is it the biggest necessity right now?
I love the river one.
Given that Carol has to go,
Yeah.
and
So why don't we?
all right, we won't do it then.
we hold
Go ahead.
on that vote.
Okay.
Okay,
Want to pick a time?
yes.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Jeez, sorry, I dropped my phone.
All right, so let's postpone the rest of the votes for the next meeting.
Can it be as soon as possible? Because I have a real need to go out of town.
Yeah,
So I think, I'm sorry, it's just,
let's see, what's next week? Next week I have conservation on Tuesday and I have kennel club on Wednesday. I could do Thursday again.
Thursday, there's a select board meeting next
Yes.
week.
What time?
It is at 6:30 and it's going to be, we have,
Well, if we did 4,
do we meet at 4?
if we did 4, I think we could probably do it.
I really need to get this done. I'm
Bring
sorry.
a
It's just-
sandwich.
Right, exactly.
4 o'clock next Thursday? Anybody, everybody?
Okay, it's okay
Tell
with
him to
me.
check on it.
4 o'clock next Thursday, let me look. There you go.
Just
Yes.
tell me what day that is.
What's that?
In a previous, when we were trying to pick the pilot meeting, you
Well,
said,
one of the issues that we're trying to figure out is next week, we were talking, Patrick, about a joint select board finance committee meeting prior to the select board meeting Thursday
Well, then we can't.
to deal with the
So that
budget.
would be where?
Michael is not, he didn't get any feedback
Roxanne's
on
on the
that
call.
yet.
Roxanne, what do you think about scheduling? You can weigh in if you can hear me.
That would be a budget issue, the budget.
Hang in, what's the question?
Is the plan to do a joint finance committee meeting before next week's select board meeting?
We were talking about it.
Yeah, I'm probably available most of the time.
Okay, so if you want to do that, that would probably be what, 5:30?
That's not going to probably give us enough time.
Can we do 3 instead of 4 for us?
Why don't you do it at 8 o'clock in the morning on Wednesday or whatever that is?
I can do anytime you want, so you just let me know.
It's so hard for Sally. I wish we could.
I can do morning. I could do morning.
Okay, which day?
Thursday morning?
Thursday.
Thursday morning.
Okay,
Or even Wednesday morning?
You do morning.
what time?
Not 8 o'clock.
10,
10, that's civilized.
That's the 17th?
this
March
10.
10th.
No, it's
I'm
10.
sorry, the 10th.
So now we're talking about
March
8 a.m.
10th, 10 a.m. here.
Or 10 a.m., right?
No, wait a minute. I can't do the 10th.
Okay.
I have a 10 o'clock meeting.
How about Wednesday the 9th?
How about Wednesday? That would be super if we could get this done.
All right, I can do Wednesday morning.
Okay, 10 a.m.
Wednesday, the 9th,
CPC, 10 a.m.
Can you do that, Jay?
what time is
10
that?
a.m. Wednesday.
What time is that pilot meeting, Tom?
4 o'clock tentatively
On the 9th?
on the 9th, yeah?
We have a meeting on the 9th at 4.
Okay, so 10 a.m. Is that all right?
Gary, that good for you?
Yeah,
Yeah, we need to get this done.
Yeah.
All right, 10 a.m. on the 9th. We will have our follow-up meeting.
Okay.
If anybody's out there, 10 a.m. on the 9th, we'll have our follow-up meeting.
So now we can go, we're adjourned.
We are adjourned.
Sally, thank you as always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You guys rock.